Back in 2022, during a public celebration of India's 75th year of independence, Narendra Modi called on India to dominate the world. He had a mantra of reform, perform, transform, and told his subjects that India was on the cusp of greatness. He sold them a dream of becoming a developed economic powerhouse within a generation, just like China. Fast forward a few years and we see that they are still just dreams. Remember when Lee Kuan Yew said not to talk about China and India in the same breath, and that India would always be the country of the future, by which he meant India will never reach its potential, as much as the Indian netizens like to claim. I'll trust Lee Kuan Yew's wise words over yours. Thank you very much. You guys are welcome to scream and shout into the internet void, just like you did with that Grok AI chatbot that criticized your precious leader. In this video, I'll chat about the main factors on why India can never reach China. Let's get into it. First, let's set the record straight and shut those pesky, loud, angry netizens up. China has a GDP of $18 trillion and India has a GDP of $3.5 trillion. That is a gargantuan difference of 5 times, or $14.5 trillion in nominal terms. How can anyone sit there with a straight face and tell me that India and China are on the same level? Maybe they're high on spicy samosas or curry powder or something else. That stat alone should tell you the mighty difference between the two nations of similar population size, and it should tell you that India has a mighty long ladder to climb if it wants to reach China. Keep in mind that this ladder is not static, as China is still growing fast. Let's move on to poverty. According to the World Bank, India's poverty rate is around 80%, whereas China's is around 15% and trending down very quickly. Yeah, good luck bridging that gap, India. Last thing to mention is that their respective shares of global manufacturing output. China's is over 30%, whereas India's is less than 3%. Where I'm from, that's called a walloping. China had a better level of basic education among its workers in the late 1970s compared to India. The very basics, such as low-level numeracy and literacy, were taught all across China, and so at the very least most people could read, write and do basic maths in their head. This did not happen in India. There was much more local governance over education, so certain areas were on par with China, but many areas were not. Why was this the case? Well, it was a matter of priority and funding. China, under Deng Xiaoping, knew that it needed an educated workforce to attract investment and build from the ground up. Therefore, it prioritized this objective and ensured sufficient funding in the national budget for schools, teachers and books. India, on the other hand, suffered from rampant corruption, as it still does. It also did not prioritize education, so it just kept the old system where the rich would send their children to be educated abroad and the poor, which makes up 99.9% of Indians at that time, were left to whatever underfunded schools they had access to. Any funds that were budgeted for education went straight to Indian government officials rather than the schools. The result? A massive population with no literacy or numeracy skills who can't follow basic instructions. Sounds kind of familiar, doesn't it? If you're enjoying this video, then please take a second to like and subscribe. Thanks. This set the path for both countries for the next 30 years, where we saw insane growth in China, but same old in India. Does the same thing apply in today's world, however? After all, they both have the same amount of graduates per year at 10 million graduates. They also have the same amount of engineering graduates at around 1.5 million per year. But where is the leadership and national direction at? Let's look at some leaders and their educational backgrounds. Modi, he has an honorary degree, I guess, in political science. Before him came Manmohan Singh, an economist and bureaucrat. Not bad. Before him came Atal Bihari Vajpayee, a political science graduate. That's a degree in politics or something. I don't know, but the point is that the largest democracy in the world elects these people to guide them. That is their mandate, to steer their country with political science degrees. Now let's look at China. Xi Jinping, chemical engineering graduate. Hu Jintao, hydropower and water engineering. Jiang Zemin, electrical engineering. I think this speaks for itself. China elects leaders with technical knowledge in engineering, whereas India elects career politicians and bureaucrats whose only technical knowledge is how to win an election. In investment, whether it be local government investment or foreign direct investment, China has, and still continues to, attract large amounts of investment and talent and find great uses for it. The aggressive investing in infrastructure such as seaports that can handle thousands of tons of cargo per day, high-speed rail and motorway networks all over the country, and many other such things has been a key factor in their success. India has basically none of these. The important thing is that investment into these things compound. They grow even more when you have them in the first place. Why would anyone want to set up a factory in a place with dirt roads with holes big enough for a person to kneel in and pray to a cow when they can set it up next to a high-speed railway station? Well, for all the crap we give Modi, we can't fault his desire to make in India. Of course, we can criticize its implementation, though. Make in India was kick-started in 2014 and seek to achieve what happened in China, South Korea and Singapore. Although the country is growing, let's take a look at the GDP since 2014. India stood at $2 trillion and has added $1.5 trillion since then. China stood at $10.5 trillion and added a whopping $7.5 trillion since then. Let's also look at it anecdotally. Do you remember back in 2023? Foxconn pulled out of a $20 billion chip factory in India and cited the reason as delays from the Indian government. Also, it was found that 50% of iPhones manufactured in India had passed quality control. That's a horrendous margin of failure. It really plays into the stereotype of Indians that they will put off work for weeks, and when it's deadline day, they spend an hour doing it just to screw it up anyway. Seems like Modi's Make in India project doesn't seem to be taking off as much as he hoped. As usual, a big part in any country's success is its governance and corruption levels. India's massive yet slow democratic process means it takes a long time to actually get things done, and when they are done, the next government can just undo it. China's streamlined and efficient one-party system is much better at doing things, from the smallest park cleaning projects to the largest bridges that span over 100 kilometers. The local governments are also very different. China has the right incentives to stimulate local and foreign investment, whereas India caters to local interests rather than the public. This ties in with corruption. I'm not naive. Every country has corruption. It's inevitable. However, it's an open secret that local Indian governments and councils are heavily corrupt. We've seen the posts about fat Indian policemen harassing people for no reason, trying to intimidate them to pay them off so they can go eat a vindaloo. Get to the top and it's even worse. Backroom deals between Modi, the BJP and their parliamentary allies split the curry pot, 90% for me, 10% for the rest of the people. China, however, suffers only a fraction of the corruption that India does. It used to be bad, but recent purges and crackdowns have hit hard and heavy and essentially crushed any meaningful corruption. This is partly why there is so much order and stability within China, because the people don't feel the want or need to cause trouble, as there's no corruption or harassment from local governments and police. Good, stable governance and low corruption levels are crucial for India if they want to even think about catching up with China. There we have it, the main reasons why India will not be able to catch up to China. Their educational differences, their investment attractiveness, their national direction and quality of leadership, their governance and their corruption levels. India is certainly growing, but not at a rate that will catch up to China anytime soon, and most definitely not to surpass China. India will have a majorly tough time if it wants to play catch-up, since China has surpassed them for the past 30 years and has leveraged their infrastructure and education to attract thousands of businesses into their country. They have Alibaba, Tencent, Huawei and many more. India has nothing noteworthy. If you like this video, then please like, comment and subscribe. Thanks for watching.